Okay, so let's just take a minute to come in here and get really focused on our dreams and desires and our energy, and just letting go of everything from today, from your day, and giving back everyone their energy with love and light, and taking your energy back and coming into this space where you are creating what you need, want, and desire. And we're going to start again talking about some of the different principles, because it really helps to have these principles on repeat with repetition, and to keep reminding ourselves, and then to be able to apply them and live them and take them out into the world, and then observe ourselves, become aware and observe ourselves engaging with the universe by living within the laws and principles, and continually giving energy to what we want and need and desire. And at the same time, learning not to put our focus and energy on what we don't want. We can often start with, well, I know I don't want this, and I'm tired of this, and I don't want to have that. And so one of the tools that I've really used for that, because if you've ever studied Abraham teachings, they're a great one to dive into. Years ago, I spent a solid year listening. Back then, they would send out CDs from their different events, and I would just listen to them as I drove in the car. You can go on YouTube and find, just watch what you're pouring into yourself, what you're reading and listening to that reminds you of these things. So Abraham teachings talk about, we came to earth to have contrast, and we know more about what we desire by having the contrast of what we don't want, and things that we once wanted, and then we've outgrown them, or we've shifted, and we no longer want or need them. And so what I have learned to do, because I used to focus also, oh, I don't want this. I don't want to be in this job, or this, I don't like how this relationship is going. I'm tired of my bank account never having money in it. I'm tired of feeling this way. I start saying, when those things are happening, in fact, I use this tool today. Anything that shows up for you, you pay attention to, but anything that shows up 3 times, you really pay attention to some pattern that keeps circling around. And I saw 3 different times today where money that is already mine and owed to me, suddenly the people can't get it to me. So when it's one person, that's doing business, and that happens. And I've used this before. I mean, it's just a nature of being in business, but there are multiple places that were all showing up today where money is being delayed. When I got that next email of like, money is being delayed, I thought, there is something in me that is needing this money to be delayed so that I deal with it. So what I want to do is, what in me is needing this to be playing out, that I'm playing it out with these other people. So the tool that I used is, I stop and I say, I am no longer available. And I was in the middle of watching a video, and I paused the video and I just started saying, I am no longer available to receive money that is already mine. I'm no longer available to have people owing me money. I tallied up in my head how much money, because it's already there, it's already mine, but suddenly people can't get it to me because of their own issues. So what I want you to realize is, those are very real, but they're playing out their money issues with me, and I'm a mirror for that and a projection for that. So they're having their experience and I'm having my experience, and I want to stop the part that is us playing this out together. And so I just started saying what I'm not available for. So I want you to notice the difference, because we're going to talk today about catching your stories and stopping telling them. I could have said, oh my gosh, here are people not paying me what they owe me. This happens to me. I could start telling stories of this is going to create problems because I just agreed to that big whatever commitment. I was counting on this money, or why do clients let me down? Or why do business partners and colleagues not follow through on their commitments? But those stories will just give energy to those stories. And there's a part of my mind that gets still in that and wants to get in that fight and make it into an unfairness, a justice, making people do right. And I recognize those things, but none of that will get me the money. So I'll report to you all as I resolve this, because I expect it'll resolve quickly. One of them has been around a while and I've been using all my tools on it. So, these are the things though. There was another time a few years ago where all of a sudden I had tons of clients and a significant amount of them started having trouble, where again, I couldn't get paid. And one of them, she started it turned into a big fight. There was projection going on. There was mirroring. We were playing out our stuff. And this is all, if you work as a coach and you're aware of that, or you're looking to work with people in that capacity, people will pay you to be their coach or their healer or counselor, and they will play their money stuff out with you and their mommy and daddy stuff and all of that. And it's okay because you're in the container. But all of a sudden, if they can't pay me, that's a hiccup I recognize. And I dug into all the tools and it cleared itself. It was interesting because at the time I was working in a mastermind with Dr. Joe Vitale, who some of you know that I work with quite a bit. And I was doing Ho'oponopono on it because it's the same theory. What in me needs them to suddenly show up and play this out with me? And I was doing Ho'oponopono, the Ho'opono prayer. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I had that next month, the biggest money month I'd ever had at that time. And I went back to the mastermind and I said, it's because I was willing to look at this as what in me is needing them to play this out. And then I started taking myself out of it instead of making stories, instead of getting stuck in it. Remember, another principle is whatever you say is. And I just started unhooking from it and all the money flooded in. And then I'll tell you this story because these are how powerful the tools can be. The one holdout was this woman. I even knew her personally, and she hired me, and we had met in person and been together. And, one minute you're like the best coach in the world to them and saved their life. And then she's playing out her stuff and it got really ugly. And all of a sudden, I kid you not, I had my mala and I was in my bed in the middle of the night. So when you say the Ho'oponopono prayer, you can say it however many times, you can fall asleep saying it, but I grabbed my mala, which is 108 beads, and I touched every bead as I said it. And at 2:30 in the morning, she sent a text message that said, I have been praying and praying to God. Why are you such a horrible person? I cannot make this up. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you such a horrible person? And I wanted this resolved. And then Spirit showed me what I did to you. And I'm so sorry. And I'm paying this in full so it can be resolved. And I was like, that's amazing, because that's how it works. I was willing to take responsibility for my part, but see, she had made me out to play something out with her, and she's praying to God to make me stop being so horrible. And there again, if I had been willing to play that dance with her, no, you're horrible. No, you're horrible. So when I did Ho'oponopono or this other tool I'm no longer available for, I said, listen, Spirit, I am no longer available for clients who don't pay me. I am no longer available to have to do this money dance. I know that within the container, I'm willing to play out my clients' money stuff. but not where they don't honor and they don't pay me when we have commitments and contracts. So again, today were the tools I went to, and this stuff really works. So when you're either responding or reacting to the energy that's showing up in your world, that is the difference, where you decide, I'm not going to make up stories. I'm not going to make myself the victim. I'm going to use these tools of saying, what inside me needs these people to be playing this out with me, or it would stop. And then I'm very clear, I'm not available for this. If you're not really familiar with that level of Ho'oponopono, I've told some of you, read Zero Limits. It's really a great book in this, and it tells the whole story of Dr. Hugh Lin and how he applied this and the miracles. And I know that last year, or I think the year before, I was working with Jesse on some things, and he had a big thing going on. I won't go into the details, but with people, commitments, money, contracts, and he dug into these tools to help resolve it. And those things, they really work. So I'm reminding you all of these tools. So I'm going to talk about some of these, and this creates an awareness in you, and I'm activating the energy of them. And then I want you to be really aware during the week and during these 90 days of all of them. So one is, we start this process. We're going through this process. What is showing up? Everything matters and everything counts. So everything energetic that shows up, if all of a sudden you can't find a parking space and things are going wrong and a bill doesn't get paid, or, all these little things going on, stop and look what they are and how they might be related energetically. And then instead of lamenting about them or feeling out of control or frustrated or a victim, take control and say what, and if you're a journaler, you can write, I am not available for. Then the second part of that is, then what are you available for? I am available for clients who show up, get value from me, and pay me well for my work. I am available for things going right. And then you start and see that raises the energy after you've been focused on what isn't working. Then you start really focusing on what is working. So something that we started doing that y'all are working on during this time, and I'm going to let Corrine know about it, is a statement that you write that starts with, when my life is ideal, I am. And I gave an example about when the last one of these I wrote. Usually I revisit it every year, but this got tucked away, and I moved in 2020, and then the world was crazy. And yet this was tucked away, but the energy of it was in the field. And when I opened it, when I finally found it, I could check off 4 of the 5 that had been worked on, and they had come into being. And the 5th one, I was led to reevaluate because it no longer matched what I thought I wanted. And so this is something for you to be working on. And we're going to check in, see, hear from Diana and Jesse, anything about this they want to share when we get into that part of today's session. So to give you an idea, these are where you let go of the hows. You focus on the essence. So I'm going to remind you all, here were some of mine. When my life is ideal, I am, and y'all are going to all have the recording of this so that you can go back and capture these. What I wrote, I got in a reflective place. I might have lit a candle, turned off the overhead lights, and just sat with spirit a little bit. When my life is ideal, I am expressing myself in the world as a visionary spiritual teacher in the spotlight. I shared that that was information that came to me when I had hand analysis done, a hand analysis reading. When my life is ideal, I am actively using my psychic and mediumship and healing abilities in my work and my life and being known for them. I am living the whole life that I love and that supports me in doing my work in the world. Marriage, family, friends, community, experiences, money, luxury. I am helping people create and live their vision. Nowhere in there did I include any hows. I'm just saying this is the essence. So if you focus on what do you want to be being, doing, and having, and this can be a document in progress, and then you can put it somewhere sacred and then let it be working. So this is something that we're working on that we're going to keep looking at, because the minute you put these desires out into the universe, along with your needs and wants, things are going to start showing up, and they're not random. They're good feedback for you. So we talk about seeing how long you can get into that manifesting, which I talk about is riding that wave where thing after thing starts going right. And you always want to notice everything showing up that's going right. And so this is the tool I used always to work with that. Is in the beginning, it was small things, and it still can be small things. When anything comes to me that I'm available for and that I want, I say, yes, that. Thank you, universe, for that, and give me more. And I recognize it. So we used to do a thing back when I was first working as a healer, and it was a lot of live and local. My first business was a healing center. People paid cash and checks. And when they paid, we would put it between our hands and we would say, thank you for this. It has returned to me tenfold, 100-fold, and beyond, and may it bless you. And we would like do a blessing of our money. So I still say, here's one you can do when you've just made an investment in this course. This investment that I have just made in myself and my work, may it return to me ASAP in full, and then tenfold, 100-fold, and beyond. And I do this every time I sign up for something, and every time I make an investment, and that added intention I've gotten now to where I can make my whole investment back pretty quickly. So again, you play with it, and the more you believe it and the stronger it gets, and then you'll be like, wow, that really worked. That really happened. So you recognize you've made your investment and activated that, and you're bringing yourself to the table, and that money comes back to you. So you want to start recognizing when you're riding these waves, it's just like surfing. Even at first, you may be up, oh, I'm up, and then you're down, but you recognize for that 5 seconds or whatever it is. And so I always say, I'm in the field. I'm in the field. I can feel it because things are coming. That's when things get faster and easier. And I will tell you, I mean, there used to be times when I would hear big successes in manifesting. And of course, I would be like, is that even real? Sometimes I'd even get mad, like, they're saying it's so easy and so fast. Like they used to say, it's easier to create $100,000 than 1,000. It's easier to create 1,000,000 than 100,000. And I used to get kind of tweaked with that, but it is because when you learn to work in the field and ride these waves, it's all about being a vibrational match to what we're asking for. So this is something I want you to be aware of. Again, I talked a lot last year about Dr. Joe Dispenza because I was really studying his work, his becoming supernatural. And here was my aha. We're all physical beings in a physical world. We learn to be matter upon matter, and it works. That's why hard work, breaking your back, slaving away 100 hours a week, all of that works. You can't refute it, but it's not sustainable and it's not always good for us. And he said, if you come up here and you work energetically, energy affecting energy, so our energy impressing on the field, it is so much faster and easier. And when you get in those places, you realize you're becoming a vibrational match. Instead of hammering matter against matter, you're impressing energy upon energy, which is the field. and then you're watching for everything that comes to you. So where's the part that can be challenging with that is things will start showing up, opportunities and information. And you have to recognize them and you have to step into them. And they're uncomfortable, they're inconvenient, they're illogical, all of these things. And yet I have learned again in the past 2 years, as I took my experiment to the next level, the more illogical and immediate and uncomfortable and inconvenient, the bigger and faster and easier the rewards. That's the way it is, because the reason it's uncomfortable and inconvenient, it can feel expensive, is because we're not a match to it. It's going to stretch and grow us. If we were a match to it, we would already have it, and we don't have it yet. But once you get it, it becomes faster and easier. So some other of these principles that we're working with is becoming hyper alert. Now y'all are setting your desires, you're asking. Right now we're making the big when my life is ideal statement. Then we're going to start looking at immediate things you want right now. Like what's one thing during this 90 days that fits your ideal statement that you want to be working on. So recognizing that as you go along, all the times you've made excuses or you've said not now or not yet, or it didn't work. I used to do that for so long. And one of my big stories was, it's always me who has to sacrifice. My husband's building his career. When anything happens in our family or our home, I'm the one who has to come home, and I'm the one who has to stop what I'm doing and sacrifice. And so it just became a story, and I got a lot of mileage out of it. But the universal principle is whatever you think is in the way is the way. So I kept coming back and bumping up against it. Well, maybe later it'll be my time. Well, God said no. Well, this is just the way it is. And then whatever I say is. But it was actually that was an old program and story, because my father was an entrepreneur who failed and failed and failed before he found success, and it affected my family. My parents fought about money. My dad was gone a lot. My parents were divorced when I was 12, and they were divorced for 4 years, and then they got married again, and they're still together in their 80s. But during that time that was so key for me, I uncovered a story that if I leave my family and fully go build this thing, people are going to be hurt. My family's going to fall apart. My marriage is not going to withstand it. So it was almost a relief, like, oh, I'll just come home. But then I'd get angry and resentful. There's always stories underneath these things. And so once you can identify what you think is in the way, I kept saying, someday my kids will be older. Someday I'll be able to do this. Someday it'll be my turn. But it wasn't until what I identified that I thought was in the way was the way. And I had to take a stand for it so that it was a both and instead of an either or. I had made them fight against each other. And then it was like that particular struggle went away. And then that story was gone, because universal law also says wherever there is a desire, a way has already been made. Now, that is something too that can be hard to believe or trust. I can tell you now, I trust it 100%. So I tell you at 100%, wherever there's a desire, a way has already been made. So if you can kind of make that a mantra, write it down, look at it, believe it until you have belief in it. Another one that I talked to you all about is part of this manifesting, and where we are is, as helpers and healers, we want to take care of everyone else. We want to help everyone else. And we have to first believe that if it doesn't include our highest good, it's not for the good of all. And I had to first come to that. And you think that's common sense, but it is a trap with helpers and healers. But then I had to take it further, that it's actually all about my highest good. And if I would always focus on my highest good, everyone else in my world would benefit more as well. But the world will tell you that is selfish, that is unrealistic, and all of those things. So looking at, can you believe the highest good of all has to include you? And then can you believe it's actually you using your superpowers for your highest good? So again, whatever you say is this next week and through the 90 days, catching the stories you're telling, catching when you get derailed. I've recognized things now where they would derail me and I'd be off in a ditch for days, weeks, months. And now I get back up and I keep going. I catch my stuff, I fix it, and I keep going. And I trust. And then the one other one I'll remind you of is we talk about the resources, the money in your bank account, the resources, the unlimited support of the universe comes to you. It's not based on your value. You have value because you showed up here in the world as a divine spark of source and as a precious child of God, of spirit. But what you need to take stock and honest inventory is of whatever's inside you. It's none of my business now. I used to get tweaked to this one a lot. They're so much bigger. They're doing so much more. They're making more money. Their life seems easier. And I had to say, if this whole me is 100%, what percent am I showing up with every day and taking out in the world? And in 2020, I took that to the nth degree of 100%, showing up in the world on the front lines with everything I had. And it was amazing what started showing up the past 2 years. So what percent, if you're playing it small, playing it safe, holding it back, waiting to have more support, more help, or waiting for a different time, or you're waiting for spirit to show up first, the universe responds to true need, which means until you create true need, the universe will not bring you the resources. And I used to make stories that the universe doesn't support me, the universe isn't taking care of me, here I am to do my part, and you're not doing your part. And then I realized whatever you're thinking, spirit is 100% intentional and neutral energy responding to you. What it meant was I was really not doing my part. So part of this is going to be things that are called on for you to build and grow, to show up with a bigger percentage, and you'll see the rewards. And again, you think a bigger percentage will require more of you, but it will actually bring you more of that support. So I want you to kind of let all this land. Again, each week we'll revisit some of these. We'll start seeing how they're playing out. I want you to kind of let those land, and I want you to just start thinking about whatever of that you want to share, and whatever of that you want to share, even what's been going on for a few of us. We met last week.